off on the subject.
Yeah, I was just wondering what the brother was saying about Islam, that he wouldn't teach that religion to anybody, or he wouldn't accept that because...
I think he was talking about the beginnings of Islam.
That's not what I said.
Okay.
That's not what I said. There are two things that I said. The first thing that I said, I was speaking about the origins of Islam and why the origins of Islam is no different to any other religion except that they say that it is. My position is very clear, and I'll say it from the start. There's something very odd in the world that we live in at the moment, and most of the, it's going to take about 3 minutes, yeah. Most of the belief systems that existed in the world prior to, say, the last 100, 150 years or so were geostrategic in nature, geospecific in nature, meaning that if you came from Arabia, chances are you would be a Muslim. If you came from Rajasthan, you'd be a Hindu. If you came from Pakistan, even though Pakistan's only been here since '48, you would be a Muslim. If you came from Brazil, you would be a Catholic. So we know that in terms of religious belief, in fact, can I just take that back? Brazil didn't actually practice Catholicism before, neither did Peru. We know that under Peru, the belief system, they believed in Viracocha. We know that in Japan, they believed in Izanagi. We know that in China, they believe in the ruler gods, which was Jade the Emperor. And if you're looking at the goddess of mercy, it was Guanxing. We know that if you were a black African, and remember, Africa's a continent. It's a whole continent, but you had different beliefs, multiple beliefs in that country at the time. So if you were Ghanaian, you would believe in Niami. If you were Yoruba, you would believe in Olarun. And so if you came from Australia, you'd believe in Balinicha.
Yeah.
The point that I'm making is that in Islam makes many claims, and they make claims which no other religion does. And I'll come to that in a moment. But if you look at the belief systems that exist in the world, I mean, I think I stopped at around about, I think it was just over 2,700 different deities. But what all of these deities had in common is that they all preceded Islam. Even though Islam says that Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the reason I say sallallahu alaihi wasallam is because if people have a belief in their faith, I have no right or no reason to discredit that faith that they have, because that's their particular belief. I believe that everyone has a right to have whatever faith they like. Where I draw the line is where you take which is faith, because you've never met Muhammad alayhi salam, you've never met him, you've never met Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you've never met him. You can only go by what someone else has told you. So you've then got to take in what you intrinsically believe and then apply it to the belief system that you wish to believe. I don't have any problem with that. From my view, because I look at the whole entire world and I see all of these so-called gods that existed prior to Muhammad, I look in Arabia 1400 plus years ago, and I saw and I've studied that there are over 360 religions, 360 gods in Arabia at that particular time. During that period, we know that there was lots of internecine wars and struggles that were taking place in that part of the world. I cannot look at the religious perspective without first looking at what the political perspective was at the time. And I then tried to marry up the two. For example, we know that with the Kaaba, we know that those 360 idols were based in and around the Kaaba. We now know this as a historical fact. If I'm wrong, just interrupt me at any time. Yet, those 360 idols, if you look at them, some of them were goddesses. For example, you know, you had Al-Nat, you had Hanul, you had normally my daughter reminds me of who they are. I mean, if you look at Al-Nat, if you look at the Arabic translation of that's into the Greek, it's Aphrodite. You had all of these gods that were worshipped at the Kaaba at the time. Those 360 gods have been decimated by the internecine struggle and the triumph of a particular group, the Quraysh. They have absolutely dismantled everyone else. But when you make your Hajj, and I made Hajj in 97, we still went around the same Kaaba where there were 360 gods, because if you look at the political situation in Arabia at that time, it was a major trading area, you understand, and they could not have what they were having at that particular time, you understand, which is all these competing wars and these competing struggles. All of a sudden, an illiterate Bedouin claims that he went into a cave and he said that he didn't see, he said that he heard someone that he described as Gabriel or Jibrail. And he said he didn't see him, he said he heard him. And whilst he was in this cave, he said an instruction was given to him, which was Iqra, obviously meaning to read. He said, well, how can I read? I can't read. And the instruction was given, read in the name of Allah. He didn't know this. Muhammad left the cave, and Muhammad went and he spoke to his father-in-law, was Abu Bakr. From there, this religion started to spread. But for me, I believe that it was political in nature as opposed to religious, which I believe was secondary. During that particular area at the time, we know that polytheism dominated. We know that there was a plethora of Iranian religions there at the time. We know that there was Judaism. We know that there were people who believed in the Second Testament. And we also know that there were people who believed in the First Testament. The First Testament being those who say that they follow the Torah, the Second Testament being those who follow the Injil. I don't call them Old Testament and New Testament. It's the First Testament and the Second Testament. Now, one of the claims that have been made is that Islam is a perfect religion, and that the Quran cannot be contradicted by scientists or anyone else. This, I say, is palpable nonsense. The instruction allegedly given to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was that he took in this revelation, if I'm wrong, correct me please, over a 23-year period. I say the reason why it took that long is because Islam was a mishmash of the prevailing religions at the time. And this book was constructed as a political act first and as a religion second. Another one of the problems that I have is that when you have the Quran, if the Quran was simply, here's a book and you can study it, just like we study any other book, there wouldn't be a problem with that, because that's your faith and you want me to look at your faith. As I said, when you step over that particular line and then it becomes that Muhammad is the last prophet, that means I cannot question him. The Quran is perfect, that means I cannot question that. They say that they are a monotheistic religion, but the truth is Islam is not monotheistic within their own Islamic ummah. It's not monotheistic. And so earlier on, when I was speaking to a Muslim man and I mentioned the Shia, for example, his thing was that they are not Muslims. So remember, he cannot know, he can only tell you what his faith is. So he has immediately consigned to the dustbin of history 13% of the world's Muslims, because he says they do not believe in the way in which they should. My last point is this. And I apologize for taking so long, my last point is simply this. If you look at the religion of Islam, and they say that it is a religion of peace, I was always taught when my father was alive that whatever you find in the microcosm, you find it in the whole. Meaning that if you encounter something and it's negative in the beginning, the chances are that negativity will prevail, and so you should keep away from it. And so I go back then to the origins of Muhammad alayhi salam and those who believed allegedly as he believed. I look at what happened immediately after the death of the Prophet alayhi salam, and we saw that there was a schism immediately, because there were those who believed that his cousin Ali should have been a caliph, the first caliph. There were others, and I remember, for example, when I read the sermon, I think it was the last sermon by Muhammad, and if you read the last sermon and you were to believe that, I don't know whether to believe it or not, I can only tell you that I read it, but if you read the last sermon by Muhammad alayhi salam, it was very clear that Ali was the one that was chosen by the Prophet. The schism meant that there was a group of people who said that it should be Abu Bakr. Now, there was war at the time. Muhammad engaged in many wars, and I don't want to be specific, and I'll tell you why in a moment. Abu Bakr, after the death of Muhammad alayhi salam, died 2 years after him, and he was also, as far as I'm concerned, an expansionist. But after the death of Abu Bakr, you then had the second caliph, who was Umar. Umar brought warfare to a whole different level, and it was Umar that introduced the jizya, for example. I think it was Umar that introduced that. He introduced 2 different taxes. One, he says, for those who believe, and one for those who didn't believe. Those who didn't believe found it the clever thing to do was to then convert, because if they converted, they wouldn't pay taxes unless they were landowners, and then of course then you would have to pay a percentage of that. Umar, who was a practitioner of the perfect religion, was murdered as the second caliph after Abu Bakr. After Umar came Uthman. Uthman, strangely enough, didn't last any real period of time, from the perfect religion. Uthman was also murdered. Hey presto, we then go to Ali. Ali then becomes the 4th caliph, because it was a political move, and I said that the politics of that time are very, 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 very interesting, and they bought in Ali. Now remember, whatever you find in the microcosm, you find in the whole. The actions of some Muslims today, I say, date back to the origins of this particular belief system. Ali, as the 4th caliph, was, as you are aware, he was prostrate in prayer. And whilst he was in prayer, he was assassinated. I don't like that term. He was murdered by those who claimed, not saying that they claimed that they follow the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They believed that, and they murdered him. The 5th caliph was Mutawahid. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it properly, but I'm pronouncing it phonetically, so please forgive me. The point that I'm making is that you've had something which, as far as I'm concerned, was completely murderous. It started, as far as I'm concerned, after the death of Muhammad alayhi salam, in murder, in terror. The caliphs were murdered, and a schism developed. The schism is here today, because I said it was politics in the beginning, religion was secondary. This is the reason why today you can have the house of Saud, for example, and as we know, Saud is a gangster family, and that land was given to them under the British and American protectorate. That land was given to them because they were the baddest, wickedest family that was out there, and it was given to the Al Sauds, just like Kuwait was given to, I think it was it the Al Sabah, you understand? Then you had in UAE, you had the Maktoum family. These were gangster families, and so it followed a long line of tradition of gangsterism that existed in that part of the world. This is my particular belief, and so I say that when you take all of that into consideration, when you take into consideration all of the other belief systems that existed in the world prior to Muhammad, that did not seem to be expansionist in nature, I say that Islam has made claims that it cannot back up. Now, whatever is said to me today, what I will reply with is that whatever you say, I will then bring you back to how the religion started in a cave and the destruction of all the other belief systems that existed in that time. We now know that Christianity wanted to destroy Islam, and we know that Islam wanted to destroy Christianity, because at their very root and their very nature, they are expansionists and they are murderous at their root. Now, you would be entitled to then ask me, bearing in mind the claims that I have made, what is my belief? And that would be as far as I'm concerned, that would be justifiable for asking what I believe. I cannot say with absolute certainty that there is not a God, and so I am henotheistic in my belief system. Henotheistic meaning that if you're a Muslim and you're walking past me and I see you, I have no reason to traduce you if you are polite to me. So if you walk past me and you say Salaam alaikum, I will say wa alaikum salam. And I will say that because it's a term of respect. However, if I'm in Japan and I go to the temple with my daughter, and when we were over there, and we know that a lot of their belief system surrounds Isanagi. Do you understand? We are totally respectable, and I can say the greeting in Japan, but it doesn't come over. It's just like my Arabic, very poor. But I will have that respect for him. So that's that henotheism which exists. One thing that I am clear of is that there is nobody on this planet that knows. One thing that I would say, and I promise you this is my last point, is that I am completely convinced that whoever wrote the Quran, whoever wrote great portions of the Quran, whoever wrote great portions of the Bible, of the Second Testament, and whoever wrote great portions of the Torah, I'll forget the other books. I won't bring up the Brahmarata and how it seems as if the Quran is lifted, just like the New Testament lifted whole passages from the Brahmarata. I mean, how does that go? Is it going to be the argument that the Pope has said? Well, they knew that the prophets were coming, and so Satan put this in the Brahmarata. It's nonsense. It's nonsense. That's the Pope's argument. So I'm saying that I cannot accept that belief system. What I can accept is that people will have different faiths and different beliefs. I do know, and I'm quite certain of, that Islam is no more prevalent and no more believable than any other systems. And the only thing that should drive you is your faith. If you come to me as a Muslim and you come to me with your faith, I will have absolute respect. If it comes to war, I will defend you. You understand? I will defend you because you have your faith and you have your right to your belief. What I don't think you have a right to do is to then tell me that if I don't have the same belief system as you, then I'm a kuffar. Do you understand? I'm a disbeliever. If I believed as you did and I don't believe now, I'm an apostate and I should be put to death. This is not the religion of a God that I would wish to be associated with. That's my point. So please forgive me for speaking so long.
Not a problem. I'm Shabir. You are?
Shabir, Robert.
Robert,
Big
nice
Robert.
meeting you.
Yeah.
Okay. Big brother.
Big Robert.
Oh, Big Robert.
I can be
Sorry.
a big brother as well.
I call him Big Bro.
Yeah. Everybody calls
I
me
was
Big
about
Bro.
to say Big Bro. Right, okay. There were quite a few points that you made. But just to start off, can I ask you, Robert, you have said many things and you constantly said, I believe, I believe, I believe, I believe.
Yeah.
What yardstick are you actually using to determine what you have determined?
Very simple question. I've a very simple answer, and it's a good question. The yardstick that I'm using is very, very simple. What we get from looking at the world as it exists, we understand that somehow, everything in existence runs according to a program. So for example, You don't see a bird flying into McDonald's to have breakfast, but you will see a bird in the grass picking up a worm. Why is that? Because that bird is programmed to eat that worm in the grass. We are not the same. If you look at an elephant doesn't act the way in which a tiger does, because all of these particular beings, all of these sentient beings, have a particular programming within them. I believe that there are certain things which are innate to us as human beings. So, for example, if you were to ask me, like I have my wife, for example, and God knows I love her to death, but she gets on my nerves sometimes. I know through my programming as a human being that it would be quite unjust, because she says something that I don't like, to go up and give her a left hook in the face. Now, there are some people who do that. My argument is the reason why they do that is because there is an error somewhere in their programming that causes them to act like that. So when I say I believe according to the programming that we are given as human beings. For example, the Bible doesn't have to give me 630 odd commandments, which is what the Jews say. There's 633, I think it is, commandments. You don't have to tell me thou shalt not kill. I know that thou shalt not kill because that's programmed into my nature. I would never murder somebody because I believe that it's the antithesis of what makes me a human being. However, I would kill somebody, which is different from murder. So if you see me and you see my daughter, leave us in peace, because if you put your hands on my daughter, I will kill you. I don't call that murder. But I also say that's part of my programming as a parent, that I would wish to protect my daughter. So in answer, very quickly, is that I believe that when I say I believe according to my innate nature, you understand, and the world as I see it.
No problem at all. You see, the criteria is quite important, and what you have basically told me in a nutshell, and correct me if I'm wrong because I'm taking what you said, in a nutshell you have told me that what you are basically saying about this innate nature is subjective. So
no, it's not.
If I can just, what I mean by that is, for example, your contention is that a person who may murder has got something wrong with the program. That's what you said.
I'm saying that is my belief.
Exactly. That's your belief.
But they can make that decision.
But if that person came to you and told you, I have every justification because I believe this to be my innate nature, would that be wrong?
Well, yes, it would, and I'll tell you the reason why. But be very clear that I said to you that there is a clear distinction between killing somebody and murdering somebody. For example, if you were attacked and you had a stick and somebody came up to you and you whacked him over the head and he died, you understand, that would be justifiable because this person acted in a way that he wished to take away your particular freedom, so he acted in accordance with his nature.
Right, that's fine. You see, Robert, the problem is when you are making a distinction between killing and murder, it is based on the legal system that you have experienced.
No, it's not.
If I can, you see, because the definition
I'm sorry, I'm going to stop you very quickly. No, just 1 minute, Shabir. Because
Robert, I never interjected.
I know you didn't. I know you didn't. But let me just say to you, it's not. You're going down a road that I haven't asked. I said to you, and I'm very clear, that it's not built on jurisprudence and this system. I said to you, it's built on the innate nature.
Robert, you see, the innate nature you are talking about, I cannot see, I cannot test, I cannot assess. I would have to go on what you said. Well, then in that case, you are agreeing with me. If I came and said to you, Robert, I kill, I murder, this distinction you are making, yes, is because my nature allows me to do that. Because it cannot be tested, it cannot be assessed, and you certainly don't have an external yardstick to determine whether yours is the right one or mine is the right one.
But I do.
I'll
explain when you finish.
We have an issue. Now, the reason I'm bringing up the system, because you are accustomed to it, the definition of murder and the definition of killing are two separate things. Yes? The reason they are separate is, what's the reason that they are separate? Because the act itself, in its finality, is the death of an being. Why and how do you distinguish between murder and kill?
Well, let me just say to you.
Because that will be, from my perspective, Robert,
Okay.
that would be subjected to certain rules, objective ones,
Okay.
which we all as a society can adhere to.
Okay.
So tell me how we can work on the
Well, what I
innate
would do, I would go back to the origins of Islam, and I would ask you, for example, if you look at the fourth caliph, which is Ali, is there any way that you can justify Ali being murdered whilst he's prostrate on the floor praying?
Okay.
So I'll turn it back on you.
Okay, you can certainly turn it back
Yeah.
on me. But before we answer that question, you have to establish whether he was murdered or killed. Which one?
Well, let me just say to you, I'm asking you to make that distinction, and I'll tell you the reason why. Because whatever you say to me, the root of your belief, is enshrined within the Quran and with the teachings of Muhammad alayhi salam. That's your belief system. And so what it is, I spoke for quite a while, and I told you my particular problems. What you've done with is it Shabir?
Yes, it
Yeah, sorry, Shabir. I apologize. Yeah, what you've done, Shabir, is that I've spoken to you about what I believe, and you haven't challenged me on that. What you're now doing is going down a particular angle which we were not speaking about. And now, what it is, I just mentioned murder and killing, and I deliberately did that. And do you know why I did that? Can I just tell you why I did it? Because I've watched you
It's
on
an afterthought, but please.
well, I'm going to be honest. The reason I did that because I've watched you on videos before, and I've seen the way in which you debate with people, and you take something which you believe may well be a weak point, intellectually, religiously, psychologically, scientifically, and you run with it. And that's the reason why I said it to you.
Okay, I have no problem
Okay.
what you think about me. That's entirely your subjective assessment.
No,
But
actually, I actually think quite good
if I
things
can-
about you.
If I don't mind, good or bad.
No, but I'm just saying, I think good
Robert,
things
I
about
think
you.
we are diverting. If we can just
Okay.
stick to the point. Yeah.
Okay.
You see, I merely asked you, and you went to Ali, and I am saying, look, was it kill or was it murder, according to your innate nature?
Yeah.
I want you to directly tell me, because you see, when you said, and rightfully, if Islam as a system, within that system, has got what we would call a legal system, I have got an objective basis to determine whether a killing was murder or a killing was in self-defense or the protection of my child or whatever.
Yeah,
Now,
okay.
the question I'm still asking again.
I'll answer the question if you answer me again. Yeah.
No problem. The only thing I'm asking you to do, Robert, is this. You see, what you talk about is your innate belief,
Yes.
okay,
Yes.
is subjective.
Yeah.
I
And
have
I'm
done-
saying that it's not.
no problem.
Okay.
Yeah? I'm coming and saying, right, look, I kill, I murder, call it what you want. And I am saying to you, like your innate belief system, I am saying my innate belief system allows me to do that.
Yes.
Now, I will take that further, yeah? You use the word expansionist, etc.
Yes.
Yeah? We have got a system in the United Kingdom.
Yes.
I'm looking at it on an objective basis, thing, purely from their innate, whatever nature it is, yes? I would humbly suggest that you are living away from reality. Not
Okay.
you personally.
Yeah.
Anyone.
Well, it
But
would be
that's
me
my
personally because
perspective.
you're speaking to me personally.
No.
But that's fine.
From a perspective.
That's your subjective
because
view.
at this moment in
Yeah.
time, I know you drive a car.
Yes, I do.
You do.
Yeah.
And I use this commonly, the example,
Oh,
yeah?
yeah.
We drive a car, we know that if we go through red lights and there's a police car around, they will pull us up because we are not allowed to go through.
Yeah.
This, if I can just,
Yeah.
the legal system
Yes.
is objective. What I mean by that is all of us are aware, because we go through the driving lessons and the theoretical, we know that, look, if you go through red lights, it is illegal. Okay? So every one of us knows that. However, look at it this way, and I want you to consider this. When we go for our driving theory, page number 2 says, going through red lights is for you to decide innately what would happen. Would you agree?
No, I don't agree.
Okay.
I'm going to tell you why I don't agree. Because what you're doing, Shabir, and I don't know if you deliberately do it, but what you're engaging in is religious sophistry. You know, this is what you're doing. Now, I made very clear in the beginning what my particular views are. What you're now indulging in, it's just my view, what you're now indulging in is semantics, and you're taking yourself away from what we were discussing. Now, when I came to speak to you, I was very, very clear about what the origins of Islam was, and I said to you, whatever you find in the microcosm, you find in the whole. Now, if what you're going to do, is to speak and not speak on the points that I've made, I'm trying to figure out exactly why we're actually having a conversation. This is religious sophistry that you're dealing with. You're not dealing with the points that I initially made.
In response, I will say this much. You see, Robert, you have said many things.
Yeah.
Not once have I suggested you are indulging in X, Y, and Z.
No.
Simply because...
It's my perception. It's a subjective opinion.
No, that's exactly what I'm pointing out about your innate yardstick also.
Yes.
But you see, if you want to accuse me, I'm using this loosely, I don't mean it on a personal level. If you are going to tell me, you are using religious sophistry, anybody who is aware of me, anyone who knows will really...
I don't know who you know.
If I can say to you, I always usually say I do not subscribe to words like religious.
Okay.
Okay? So, there is the issue. The issue here is very simple, Robert. I don't want you to assess what I am saying, and think about how and why I'm saying it.
Yeah.
All I'm saying to you, Robert, is look, I have looked at your paradigm.
Yes.
I am assessing whether your conclusions based
So
on
you're assessing, but I mustn't assess yours.
No, 1 second,
Okay.
if I can finish.
Okay.
Yeah, I am assessing what you have concluded based on your paradigm.
Yes.
There's a distinction there.
You don't understand my paradigm. I've given you a snippet of what you believe is my paradigm.
Robert, I have to only go on what you said.
Okay.
And you are actually pointing out my contention that if you left it subjectively, you would all be confused.
Yes.
But if we take it a bit further, you see, you said Islam is this, Islam is that, amongst the geopolitical,
No, that's not what I said. That's not what I said. No, because what you're doing,
Robert,
you're being facetious. What I said
Robert,
to you,
I had no
Shabir, all I said to you,
Robert.
because if you're going to be facetious, I'm going to jump in, Shabir, seriously.
But I'm not.
Because it's a serious. All I said to you is that most religious beliefs are geospecific, meaning that wherever you come from in the world, you will have a particular belief system.
No problem.
Okay.
But all I am saying to you, Robert, is this. Look, I am inquiring as to why you have been led to a particular conclusion. And that is why I rightly said, what yardstick have you used? Now, you said about Islam, it was expansionist, it was murderous, you said many things.
Yeah.
What I am saying is, look, all this that you have said is entirely based on your subjective assessment, I'm saying. Yeah?
That is not true.
Well, that's fine.
Yeah.
We can explore that. But the point I'm making here is this. Look, if I look at what you said, and I use the example of murder and killing, we as human beings, by definition, are social animals, as we are told.
Yeah.
Okay? We have to have systems in place for our benefit. A system that includes or encompasses every human interaction, I would suggest, would be a system which has at its base objectivity. Yeah? Now, if I were to, and I have pointed this out and I want you to respond to me on this one, I have pointed out to you that, look, the ultimate yardstick that a human being is going to use, okay, either is going to be a transcendental one, or it's going to be one based on human beings. I would submit and I would suggest that it would be the transcendental one rather than the human one. The distinction I'm making here is this one, where you tell me my innate nature tells me X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
I am saying, well, actually, I don't trust your innate nature.
Yeah.
How can I justify your position if I say I don't trust your innate nature? And you know why?
Yeah.
Because I can't see through you to determine whether your intent is coming across the way it ought to.
Yeah.
Well, if that is the case, then we are left with this. My definition of honesty is X. Your definition of honesty is Y. His definition of honesty is Z. And each one of us will claim it's my innate nature telling me. How do I overcome that?
Well, I'm saying that firstly, your argument is facetious once again. I have to say that because exactly what you've said to me, I can actually turn that back against you because you make certain claims. For example, you speak about being transcendental as if somehow you have a knowledge that somehow is missing to everyone else. That's not where I went. When I spoke about what's innate, yeah, there are certain things which I say are innate to all human beings, okay? And what you've done, you've extrapolated on that and include things that I quite clearly didn't say. To give you an example, I said, for example, that if you have a woman, it is not right that you put your hands on her. I know that in Islam there are some hadiths that say, well, you can beat your wife. I'm saying that that is not my belief. Yeah, that I should beat my wife. If I have a problem with my wife and she gets on my nerves and it gets to that, I'm going to leave her. That's my innate belief. Let me tell you the great thing about my innate belief. My innate belief does not impinge upon anybody else and upon what anybody else believes, except you come and you try to do me harm or you try to do my family harm. What you can't do is speak about transcendency as if somehow the belief that you have in transcendency is any more valid than the Japanese Inzaghi, the Chinese Jade, the Chinese Wanzing. Your belief system, as I said to you, Shabir, starts off in a cave, and no matter how much flowery semantics you wish to put on it, that's where your argument falls down. Where your argument stands up is if you say, I have a belief system and my belief system is based on the Quran, my belief system is based on the prophets, and you say that is your belief system, I'm henotheistic, you're more than entitled to have that. What you can't do is speak to me as if somehow you are religiously or transcendentalist superior to mine. Your belief system is not superior to mine. You know, some Muslims that I speak to, not most, I take that back, you understand, they have this very kind of smug, well, you know, you don't know what I know, and so on and so forth. It's nonsense. It started off in a cave, and it started off with an illiterate man.